All right, y'all. Thank you for joining in today on another episode of Chasing Birdies. My man, JP.
What's shaking, man? It's good to see you, bud.
It's been a freaking minute. It's been a day, bud.
Bud, I haven't seen you in a couple days, but it was good when I did see you. We were at Old Memorial Golf Club doing the damn thing. And we'll get into that a little bit. But first, today's episode is brought to you by Lynx Brewing. Go check them out at lynxbrewing.com. The boys are brewing the Chasing Birdies Blonde Ale, and we're expecting big things out of the beer this year in 2023. Looks like you're having a cold one right now, so.
Yeah, you know what? I am, but it's not alcoholic, if I'm being honest. Because I'm not drinking it during the week. I love crushing the Chasing Birdies Blonde Ale, especially on the weekends, but during the week, I like to get that little taste of the beer without the alcohol, keep me going. But
it's like sparkling water for me, bud, with a soda.
Well, I was just going to say, we were down in Florida. We're down in Tampa. Shout out to the boys over at Old Mo. Doc.
Shout out to B-Cats too, bud.
Oh, big time. Yeah, big time. But the point being, yes, shout out to BK. But, I noticed you were sipping on your little bit of your tequila seltzer there that you make, I guess. A little tequila with a little soda. Splash of what, lime?
How quick was that going down on day one?
I mean, you couldn't even say your name.
I got to be honest. The best thing that happened in that round of golf is when that girl kicked over my cup. Because I go into the Old Memorial locker room and I said, hey, give me tequila on the rocks. And they hand me a styrofoam cup full of what I thought was water mixed with tequila. And I tasted it and I said, oh, shit. That's just straight tequila. Styrofoam cup, 16 ounces. And I moseyed on over to the first tee, sipped it, got to 4T, bud, and that is where it happened. And I had about 75% of that done, and I was rocked. And she was so kind and made me a nice one with water mixed in, so that was really cool. What'd you think of it, bud? First time down at Old Mo.
First time at Old Mo. Love the layout. I think it's great. The first hole at Old Mo, it's not really, you got to hit a good tee shot there, but then you hit set number 2, phenomenal par 4. I played it for the parking lot.
You hit 2 great tee shots.
Fuck you. Yo, I hit 2 left hard duck hooks. Don't know how we found the ball in the parking lot, basically. But yeah, great track. Greens were great. Course was phenomenal. It was cold as shit, man.
Day one was cold.
Day one was cold. Coming down the stretch, it was like 42 and no sun. And then Sunday morning, obviously, it was freezing.
Beautiful was day 2, though. Beautiful.
Definitely rusty.
There's a lot of rust, bud. There was a lot of rust.
A lot of rust, bud. But you made some birdies. You were chasing them out there a little bit, bud, especially on number 2. Did you make that putt? I can't remember.
Bud, driver 2 iron to like 6 feet.
Yeah.
Made it. But I will say, dude, I'm really liking, I got the ping 230s in the bag. I'm really digging it. That 2 iron was a missile for me the whole weekend. So I'm really excited about those. The new Bettinardi putter I had in the bag, I really like the feel of that. So, boys, we're chugging along. I mean, it's rusty. I made some mistakes I probably wouldn't make otherwise, but those 2 drives you hit on 2, bud, I've never seen you hit 2 duck hooks.
Yeah, that was ugly. It was ugly. There's nothing to talk about there. But you know what, bud? I'll see you down at Pine Needles. How about that? I'll see you in March. We'll get it worked up before then. Back 9. Dude, the back 9 at Old Mo is just I think it's back 9's better than the front. That's my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree. And we went down there and celebrated our boy B-Cats' birthday a little bit. So happy birthday to you, bud. Late. It was Friday the 13th, which perfectly matches up with you. And so we had some dinner Saturday night. I smoked a couple cigars. I smoked one on Sunday. Life was great. So we're really excited for the year of 2023. We've got some things in the works. But the most important part of your day, if you're playing golf, is stretching.
I
If
mean,
you don't
isn't that
stretch
the
and you go
truth?
straight to the first tee, you're in trouble.
Dude, you're absolutely in trouble. And stretching, people, we're not talking about like touching your toes just generically and swinging a heavy weighted club. I mean, today's episode of Chasing Birdies with Stretch Effect, we get into the details. This is a routine that you have to do in the off season, so you can come out firing on all cylinders when it's go time. But it's so important. And when it's cold, your body's a little tight, especially if you work out, you're tight to begin with. It makes it difficult to get through the ball. So you start hitting shit right, start getting a little wristy, snapping them a little bit. But these guys over here in San Diego, California with Stretch Effect are joining us today on Chasing Birdies. We got Kyle, Valery, Chris Wilke coming on the show. And but let's just get right into it, huh?
Let's roll on over to the Stretch Effect boys.
You know, we're here now for another episode of Chasing Birdies. And one thing that I will say is, starting off the new year, we've had on a couple different types of guests. We had the one guy, Starvin' Marvin Jr., on the last episode with the food, loving golf, yada, yada. And today we turn our attention to the more biomechanics, if you will, the stretching, the mobility aspect of a golf swing, or just in general as being a human. And we have two gentlemen here today from San Diego with Stretch Effect, Kyle, Valery, and Chris Wilke, here to join us on Chasing Birdies to talk a little bit about what they do and how they help golfers like us become more loose. My man, how y'all doing?
Good.
Yeah,
Thanks
we're
for
doing
having
great.
us, guys.
Yeah. Morning.
Oh,
morning
for you.
cigar.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been told that I brush my teeth with cigars, so but yeah, I mean, it's an early start to the day. We'll have a cigar. It's I am not the stereotypical form of health. So
It's not what you want to tell them.
So it's like a curtailed version
yeah, I
of
mean,
health.
so that's why I'm really excited about today. Just make me depressed and how much of a loser I
Sure.
really am. We are
usually a
excited
goal
to
of
have
ours.
you guys. I mean, like Ryan said, it's the beginning of the new year, and we're always trying to look for something new to improve our golf game. And I watched your videos, and I thought it was really cool watching some of the videos that you guys had posted about the stretching. And I don't think people realize how important stretching is in golf.
Well, I mean, it's really just about force generation and power, and then resiliency and longevity, right? And then if you don't have capacity functionally with your body, within your body, what you're asking it to do, whatever that is, you're going to be injured. It's going to be painful. And if we love something like golf, it probably shouldn't hurt us and create a bunch of pain and angst and worry in our lives, right? Outside of our wives yelling at us that we're gone for an entire
Like,
day.
I just want to enjoy a cigar and hit a golf ball and not get hurt. Like, how hard is that?
Right. Well, it may be a little bit more challenging if your body doesn't cooperate.
The main thing is it requires a lot more understanding than most golfers would care to take the time, to partake in. It's like a
Real quick,
Go
because
ahead.
we're getting into the meat of the conversation. I do want to hear a little bit about both of you, where you came from. I know Ryan had mentioned to me that one of you guys might have gone to Cal U.
Yeah.
Yes.
What is that?
Yes.
Wild.
What is that? Why are you guys aware of that university?
Well,
or what's
it was
the...
3 miles from where I grew up, and I went to a liberal arts
interesting.
college south of Pittsburgh called Washington and Jefferson. And at some point in my life, I thought I was going to be a dentist, so I transferred to Cal U to take science classes. And when I came back to
Yeah.
W&J, everyone asked where I was, and I told them I was studying abroad, but I was only down the road. But I saw that on your LinkedIn. But yeah, elaborate a little bit on Stretch Effect, both y'all's stories, and then we'll get into the meat and potatoes.
Yeah, sounds good. So Chris and I, speaking of education, Chris and I kind of met on our educational journey. We both started in different aspects of the strength and conditioning background, but then we kind of melded into this hybrid role of manual therapy meets strength and conditioning. And through some a lot of specialty certifications like active release techniques and those, we found each other and kept kind of running into each other in different places and started to find that our ideology around the industry and how it should function and operate for an individual is broken and there was a better way to do it. And so we joined forces about 4 years ago, started with some corporate stuff. And then we thought it'd be a good idea in the middle of COVID to open a on-hands brick and mortar where we, luckily had a following. We had previous businesses here in San Diego. So we also were blessed at that time to be able to work with the likes of Manny Machado and some other pro athletes. And, we found that there was a huge void, even at the highest level, which was probably the most surprising to us, that we're like, okay, well, the best of the best do it like this. And then we were finding deficiencies in those capacities from gold medalists to the top played athletes. And then you're like, okay, well, that's interesting. And a lot of it, like kind of Chris was saying, was based around this concept of actually educating somebody on their body so they don't keep breaking it. Right? Ignorance was driving this cycle. The process of unraveling that and the manual therapy and the corrective exercise and stuff is pretty straightforward to a certain degree, right? But for speaking to a person and speaking to a human and getting them to understand and buy in and create some behavior modification ultimately has been our long-term success with our clients.
Well, that's
so what did you guys have to study to
yeah
a lot.
It started with just a foundational study in kinesiology, and Kyle's was more in like the nutrition and stuff, and mine was physical therapy. So my plan was to go to physical therapy school, but just got to be a lot of school, let's face it. And I started working to make money.
I'm surprised you guys went to class, regardless.
Well, that was part of the issue. But really it's you, just like anything else, right? You go and get a finance degree. That doesn't mean you come out and like understand economics and the markets and all of a sudden you can become a superpower entrepreneur. You have to continue your education well beyond that. So, we both started our personal training journey, and, I went down the path of like real strength and conditioning. So like, what do collegiate athletes, pro athletes, like how do we train? How do I do program design for those sorts of people? And then you're trying to apply that to athletes, but also general population. And then all of a sudden you have to stop a session in the middle because, well, lo and behold, they actually can't do the amount of volume. They can't do the amount of load that you're trying to prescribe them. Similar to a golfer, like trying to create a new swing, right? And so then it became an issue of like, how do I really serve these people? How do I serve these people in the moment? And that's where Kyle and I separately, we didn't even like really know each other at the time. We both went into manual therapy as well, because it was like, okay, if I have somebody in the middle of a workout, we have 50 minutes, 55 minutes together, and we're trying to be as efficient as possible, and all of a sudden we have to stop. Am I going on another path with them? Am I changing their program on the spot? Or is there something I can do to solve the problem right now to continue moving forward? And that's ultimately what allowed us or forced us kind of to create the system that we now call Stretch Effect, because it really is a system about like catered progress, through overcoming these limitations that pop up along the way. And unfortunately, only the elite level practitioners, the elite level assessors, the elite level coaches know how to do that. And we're trying to bring it to the masses. It's not easy, but it's through us educating our clients, yes, but educating other practitioners as well.
So when you take, for example, a pro athlete or someone that you may have worked on in training, and now you have a new client, and like you said, you get to the middle of their workout, and their workload, they're not able to withstand the workload that you may have prescribed, as you said. What in that moment with respect to their training regimen, is it more on the fly switching it up, or is it something that you stop them and you pick up on another day with them and kind of how to gauge what they're able to do? Because let's be honest, like me personally, I love working out. I'm into fitness. I run, I lift weights, but there's points and times where I know I'm not built for heavy loads. I'm a smaller guy. And so there's times where for me personally, it's like, dude, I just want to take a day or two off. I need that kind of recovery. So how does that kind of intertwine working? I guess the difference between a pro athlete, which I know y'all have done, and just a standard person who wants to get in shape, so to speak?
So, I mean, this is kind of like a very common problem because when we look at like injuries, for example, the two biggest likelihoods of predicting an injury are a previous injury and then ramping up too much in a program, right? Those are like the two biggest, like, oh God, I just broke myself. And when you get paid to do this, it's your whole existence, right? It's your start, finish of your day. Everything revolves. The sun revolves around this process. The problem is that when you interject life, work, kids, stress, chaos, fires to put out, etc., it takes a little bit of a back seat in the whole conversation. Now, that's the reality of it. But then we're angry, we're upset, we're frustrated. So then what do? We got to move. And then we go move, and we might move too much. And then that stops us from doing other things that we want to do. We're like, oh, I did it again. And so there is an awareness that has to be created to what that recipe is for you, the dosing, the volume, the frequency, intensity. But then, like, just how we built our facility around it is it needs to be a complete circle. That complete circle is inclusive of recovery, which is sleep and hydration and mental health and, using ice baths and infrared saunas and Normatec compression boots and all of the different apparatus that, oh yeah. And if you were here,
man Ryan here's got it all too in his house.
Yeah, so Ryan understands. And so you don't want to like kind of bastardize fitness. And a lot of people just take it as like a singular approach and they don't integrate it with a holistic perspective. And they need to understand that if you've been sick, you start back slow. If you're coming off of a international travel, you don't just go hit it super hard. Like these are things that like our brains feel like we're behind. And so we move almost faster and more the next time we reintroduce ourselves. But really, that's worst case scenario. And we have like a lot, especially on the pro level, where they're going to be like, well, this is what I did 2 weeks ago. You're like, that's right, but your body is not there.
Yeah.
So we use like the Whoop and stuff like that to be able to, kind of gauge that to a certain degree. So you can put some numbers and data and stuff to it to try and help curb behavior. I think it's one of the best things that it can do. But I think a lot of times once you do this regularly, I'm sure Ryan, you'll experience this, but you'll say just like that, I don't feel it today. Yep. I need a recovery day, right? That's ultimately how it'll.
So what happens when you say that every day?
Well, that's when you give up and go home.
That's my partner there, bud.
I'll tell you this much. I mean, but how about the injury I had? Remember that injury? I couldn't lift my arm?
Yeah.
I thought I tore something in my arm, in my bicep, probably in November. There was 3 days where I could not move my arm at all. And so I'm like, okay, this isn't good. Like I told Bash, I was trying to lose weight. I was trying to, tone up a little bit. So we're probably third day into doing this. And I was doing these curls with a curl bar and I kept increasing in my sets. And I couldn't lift my arm. I'm like, this is, so I had to go to Med Express, boys, like an idiot. My arm's laying down to the right, couldn't lift it up. I go in there and the guy's like, well, what happened? I'm like, well, because I actually made an effort at life right now. This is what I get. But I guess it was a strained tendon, this guy said. But it was the most painful thing ever.
Yeah, and the pain can be a motivator, right? But whenever
if you don't have the understanding, it can be a discourager. And that's the thing, right? It's like, so the whole problem is that we don't start these efforts with an assessment of what our current capacity is, right? So if we don't know, oh gosh, you don't actually have, good control of your bicep. You don't have good shoulder stability. The shoulder is the foundation of the bicep. So if you don't have the stability in the shoulder, you're trying to max out effort on the bicep, something's going to go south, right? It's the same thing with any sort of exercise. It's the same thing with the golf swing. And this is where this might be the biggest lack of knowledge / awareness that we have in sport and in fitness. We say fitness does not equal health because health is the status of your physiology, your joints, your mental state, your biomechanics, all of it together, right? And then you express it in fitness. So what we assess for we call it movement health. We factor in all components of health, but in terms of movement health, we're looking at joint architecture, tissue quality, neuromuscular control, how everything works together in harmony.
Range of motion.
If you don't start exercise with that, there's always going to be injury looming because you don't know how you haven't used your body for the past weeks, months, years.
It's a ticking time bomb, essentially. Yeah, it's just waiting to...
Yeah, Pep, there you go, buddy. You did 3 curls and you tore your bicep. Maybe lighten up the load a little bit. So you guys put your heads together and you launch Stretch Effect. And I'm sorry if I missed it earlier in the conversation, but when did this whole idea of you blending together, the whole idea of bringing this to the masses kind of conceive? Was it within the last decade?
2019, and then we opened our brick and mortar in July of 2020.
So
and then we've been cooking ever since.
Are you, from a business perspective, because you're both entrepreneurs at this point, what's the goal of the business to be able to cater to the masses and get the word out of what y'all are doing, or are there possibilities of franchising Stretch Effects in the future? Like, is that anything y'all have talked about? I'm just curious because I think what you guys do, there's nothing like that where I am, and I'm in West Virginia, by the way. But
and we've heard that a lot actually, and people, like when they move or they like let me know, and it's like you're kind of like bringing together a couple different practitioners. Our goal is multifaceted. So yes, on the franchising components, technically we're like an MSO, so we're a management services organization that can facilitate medical operations. So we have doctors of physical therapy that deliver all the services and work here. We also have like an IV company that we're started with an anesthesiologist. So we focus on the business components and the scale growth, marketing, direct daily management, those types of things. In addition to our like hands-on work that we do with our clients. But we have, online components of this that we're looking to scale, grow. We have brick and mortar locations that we're looking to grow. And then we have like corporate offerings as another extension that we're looking to expand.
That'd be really cool part of your business to go to these companies and, offer them a package for their employees that they can pay for them and get the employees in a healthier state. Because that actually helps them out in the long run too. If your employees are healthier, you got lower insurance costs.
Yeah,
that's right. So, and that's where we have like literally thousands of videos that we've recorded, and we have all these programs that we put together in a software, and we're able to deliver those to people based on their limitations, or, have some like shortcut type educational videos, things of that nature. And so that's how we facilitate our in-person business, but that's also how we can kind of garnish scale with people with their different deficiencies for, we have golf warm-up stuff, and we have all these other things. Yeah,
well, and that's the thing too. I think for the golfer, since we're talking golf, with all of us loving golf, that's the thing that like you don't do. You just you get to the range, you take a wedge out, you sit there. I light my cigar. Bash is probably stretching. I'm lighting my cigar, and I go into hitting some small wedges, and then off the tee we go because it's like you're in a rush. And for me, I think that's the one thing in 2023 that I'd like to improve is, get even 5 minutes to do a stretch and stretch your back out, stretch your legs out, stretch your arms out and your neck, and then go into hitting balls.
And even some activation. Actually, that's the one thing that most people, especially like if you're sitting, so you're sitting, right, all the time, and then you go do like this dynamic explosive activity. And yes, you need to open some things up that are shortened and have been inhibited, but really you need to activate some stuff to help you generate some power because you're going to be moving fast and generating some power. And that can be fairly easily done, right? But you have to have a certain amount of skill or aptitude and ability to do that. But you may also, and there's a social component to this too. When you don't see everybody doing that, like, oh, there's the guy over there, and then like trying to warm up, and it's kind of like frowned upon a little bit, So that's kind of an undertone that you'll see. But then everybody knows like, oh, I just got a bad back and I got a bad knee, and that's because I play golf. But really, it's just I don't do anything on the front side. And almost in no other sport would you ever see anybody do that. Right? There's not a single other sport.
Back to when they said Tiger's activating Tiger said activate my glutes, right? And everybody made fun of him for it.
Yep.
Well, it's a real thing, boys.
Yep. It really is. And then some of it looks silly.
Well, and it doesn't just happen on the day of the tournament. You know, it doesn't just happen like, oh, I'm going to warm up 5 minutes before my round and go out on the range and activate my glutes. It happens the days leading up to it. It happens in the off season, right? That's when the capacity to activate the glutes actually happens, because first you have to turn off the stuff that's preventing you from doing that in the first place. That's not going to happen in 5 minutes before a round. But if you have the right program and the right warm-up and you're working on that building up to starting to ramp up your playing, let's say, like, are you guys both on the East Coast?
We are.
Yeah, so there's certain times of the year where you're probably not playing a lot, right?
Like right now.
Right now. So this should be your accumulation phase. This should be, I'm correcting all of the bad stuff in my body, getting ready to ramp up a good, efficient swing again. Then you have a day before you're going to go play that might be a higher volume corrective day where you're working on your golf specific stuff. So then when you do go out 5 minutes before and you're on the range, you only have to do 5 minutes worth of stuff. You're just tapping into what you had previously done, right? But if you think 5 minutes of warming up before your range session is going to make a huge difference,
It's not going to fix it.
it's probably not. It's really tapping into the preparatory work that you've been doing.
You're basically getting your body into a routine for when you actually play golf.
It's like if you only brushed your teeth right before you went to the dentist.
Well,
That doesn't clear the cavities.
Right.
So
what would you say then for most amateur golfers, and we have a lot of those amateurs out there listening right now. What would be your one bit of advice for them, for us as golfers, to try to incorporate into some routine, like a basic stretch move? Is it, I don't know, what would you recommend in that regard?
Well, I mean, first and foremost,
Finding out what's wrong.
Yeah, we believe in a team approach. So, if you're starting to play and you don't have a swing coach, that's probably not ideal, right? Baseline is pretty darn important, and somebody filming you at the very least, so you can see where you're starting and compare it to where you want to be. That's really critical. That's the swing side of things. Then you have the body side. The body side, a swing coach isn't necessarily going to understand what's going on with the body, right? And the body coach may not necessarily understand what's going on with the swing. So communication between the two is pretty critical, because if somebody's trying to get you to increase the width of your backswing, but they don't understand that you can't move your shoulder and your elbow is bending too much, and therefore you have a narrow swing, right? You can't expand upon that width, or your hip doesn't rotate, and therefore you're early extending and you're using too much low back. That's probably not going to be the swing coach. That's probably going to be the body coach's job of getting you better joint capacity, range of motion, so that you can make the move that you're trying to make when you get out there on the range. So it's really an assessment of where you are, and then developing a strategy based on your own limitations for where you like to be.
Pep, you got a lot of work to do, bud.
Yeah, so it's really just seeing. It's like back in the day, right? It's like that whole president's fitness test thing, right? Where it's like, can you touch your toes? Like you reach forward, sit and reach test, and some of those things. You kind of need to go through one of those, right? Where it's just like, can you touch your toes? Can you extend? How do you rotate? When you rotate, what happens? And that's taking literally an hour out of your existence to find out a little bit about your body, what it can and can't do. And we usually, would kind of argue it's like you're trying to build a race car in some form of capacity, right? And they do testing. They do testing on the valves. They do testing on the tires and wheels. They do all this testing before they go try and max it out on the track. We're doing the inverse. You're just going out there, buying a new club, whatever it might be, exploding as much as you possibly can without ever saying hey, is this going to work out in the long run?
So I'm like a Toyota Corolla.
Right. Yeah. And we would like to get you into that Lexus model. We just want to bump you up a little bit.
Yeah. It's not a lot of upgrades, but just enough to get you there, right?
Yeah, just kind of shine the edges a little bit.
This is like
It doesn't have to be a sexy, polished Lexus.
Yeah, there you go.
The engine still works. That's all we care about.
Well, you see, and like Jonathan said earlier, ever since Tiger hit the circuit, I mean, fitness became so much more under the scope with golf, and back in the day, it wasn't like that. And now you look at that in Jupiter, that guy, Joey D. Have you guys seen him or whatnot? I mean, a lot of guys train with him down there in Florida, but it's it's everything you're talking about in the off season and maybe even during the season, but it's band work, it's medicine ball work. So it's not so much getting out there and just hitting balls. It's all the prep work leading up to that. And I agree with you that it's something that you just can't come out the gate, firing away. You got to have some.
Yeah. So Ryan, it sounds like you do some of this stuff outside of golf. So how much time would you say you spend on a day-week basis engaging in this whole conversation?
In terms of like fitness, working out?
Fitness, mobility, recovery, like those.
I spend probably 7 hours a week in the gym.
Okay. That's probably unrealistic for most people, I would argue. And that's where like time, I would say time is probably one of our clients' most valuable resources. And being efficient and effective, you're our perfect client, right? You're our perfect client who has the time and the energy and resources to devote to that conversation. That's ideal. But when we have Pepe here, he's going to be the one that we have to curtail this conversation for, because that's a non-starter for him, right? That is like, good luck. That's not going to happen. So it's more about like, could you devote 30 minutes 3 times a week? Right? That seems reasonable.
Minimum viable program.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is where you need to start, right? That is a realistic chunk of time.
So you had said something that was really interesting, and a lot of people don't have the access to swing coaches and workout coaches, but somebody where they work hand in hand. And you mentioned that, and then you look at somebody like John Daly, who went and lost a ton of weight. Okay, and John Daly's so talented, he doesn't have a swing coach. His swing changed completely.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And he said, screw this, I'm not screwing around with this, and he put the weight back on.
Yep.
Yeah.
And here he is. He's still to this day one of the most talented golfers of all time.
Yep.
Let me ask you something. When you look at John Daly's swing, would you think he's tight, or would you think he's loose, or we would call it hypermobile, just based on his swing?
I would say loose. I would say he has a loose athletic golf swing.
Yes.
Because it is a very athletic motion of not everybody can do what the hell he's doing.
No. And so when you look at, and I don't know what John Daly did to lose weight, right? I'd love to see what he was doing, but if there was some strength training involved, or running, or extensive cardio, or whatever, and maybe
or was it just diet and cardio?
Was it just diet and cardio? I don't know. But the bottom line is, he's loosey-goosey, right? He's one of those kids, he was probably hypermobile, right? And he started swinging a golf club, which is an ideal sport for somebody that can rotate their spine and their hips. And so if he started doing anything that created rigidity, it's going to tighten up his swing a little bit. And then he's going to compensate somehow by trying to get that extensive backswing like he has. But if he's losing range of motion based off of doing some strength training and stuff, he's going to have to fight around that, right? So that's where it gets very challenging. And that's where, like I just saw, I don't know if it's this morning, or I think Shoffley had to back out of the Tournament of Champions. And he said, I saw a post, he said, like, I should have stayed fat or something like that. So his off-season program, he's training. He was probably getting stronger. There's a lot of metrics and stuff now about driving distance and earnings on the PGA Tour. And so, the longest hitters are earning the most money, right? So now what are guys trying to do? They're trying to improve their club head speed and their ball speed. And there's a cost to that, right? Especially if you're training, you mentioned like Joey D and stuff. I don't know what he does. I know he has some PTs and stuff there, but I see a lot of guys doing barbell bench press. And that worries me a little bit, right? Especially when you see a guy like Brooks Koepka, who keeps getting hurt, doing things like barbell bench press.
Bryce DeChambeau is always hurt too.
Yeah, and he's another hypermobile guy, right? And so you have to be concerned about these guys in whatever their capacity is. Shoffley doesn't look like he's hypermobile. DeChambeau definitely does. But, we wouldn't know unless we assess them, right? Everybody has a different makeup. And you have to do a workout that's correcting your weaknesses rather than feeding into your weaknesses. Like
whatever you should do.
Yeah,
or whatever
yeah.
you should do. Most people do what they're good at. So the stretchers stretch and the lifters lift. Right? But really, it's a marrying of both. It's a yin and yang that has to exist there.
See, that's where, and I want you to elaborate on hypermobile in a second, Chris. But so for me, that's the difference. Like, I'm not doing a lot of these static movements with just weight resistance. I mean, I'm in the gym with a trainer 5 days a week, 1 hour each day, and then I go back 3 or 4 days and I run 3 to 5 miles, and that accumulates my 6 to 7 hours a week in the gym. But I'm traditional lifting. I am bench pressing. I am doing curls. I am incline benching with dumbbells. I'm not doing any of the moves. You know what I mean? So I think that does, in some effect, hurt the golf swing.
100%. And that's where I think, like, and this is a self-assessment thing. This isn't a fitness thing. This is like you're sitting down at the beginning of the year and you're in your journal and you say, what are my top 3 goals for this year? And you're putting them in order, right? Where is golf and where is fitness? Because if you don't assess what's most important and then your plan is dictated by those goals, you may be working out of order. You may be moving away from your priorities for the year. And so, like, your fitness, if let's just say you want to take, five strokes off your handicap, and that's your number one goal, and yet you're doing traditional strength training and there's no rotary movements, there's no joint training in order to preserve range of motion, you're going to find that it's a pretty tough battle, to gain efficiency in your golf swing, but also get stronger and leaner and gain muscle mass. It's a really challenging thing. I mean, I would probably argue that when DeChambeau put on all the weight, there was a phase. So if you look at, like, Olympic athletes, there's phases, there's macrocycles, months, and there's microcycles, phases or weeks or months within that macrocycle, right? I would argue that he probably spent 2 months or something not really even focusing on improving the golf swing, but just adding mass, adding strength, and then maybe going out and swinging as hard as he could every once in a while because he is gaining power. And then after that, he had to try to get his golf swing back, right? So, that's where every individual has to say, my goal is my golf swing. Now, if your goal is your golf swing and you're doing barbell, bench press, deadlift, pull-ups, machine stuff, and there's no thoughtful mobility or rotary power work even. Let's say you're a hypermobile person, right? And you're loosey-goosey, you have all the flexibility you need. You better be doing rotary stability and rotary power so that your body can control the ramped up power of the swing.
Guys,
that's exactly what I'm talking about. Chris and Kyle, come on over to West Virginia and Pittsburgh, man. Let's go.
Put you through a program, bud.
I do want to say you guys should not buy jewelry from Joyce's Jewelry because your wife will be wanting more of it. Our friends over at Joyce's Jewelry have made a promo code, Chasing Birdies 20, for all of our friends and followers and the people that don't like us out there. So go over to joycesjewelry.com, enter Chasing Birdies 20 at checkout. It'll get you 20% off. Michelle, Bulova watches, all the fine jewelry that they have, engagement rings, wedding bands, bracelets. I've been down this road before, guys. It's worth it. I mean, she's going to want more, but go do it. And if you have any questions, email our boy Brandon at joycesjewelry.com.
Yeah, so watches are a good thing. I do like to wear nice watch from Joyce's, but I am into the Whoop, guys.
But that thing has given you more trouble. Like,
what's your thoughts?
Your
on
heart
the Whoop?
rate spikes at like 1:30 in the morning. Why? Like,
no, the only thing that it messes me up sometimes is when I feel like I slept great and I look and I'm in the yellow and I'm like, what the freak?
There is a head game component to that.
There is.
Yeah. I mean,
you got to base it on how you feel, though, right? You got to base it on how you feel. But how long have you been wearing it? How long have you been having the Whoop?
2 years.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so you got enough data and you kind of understand a little bit overall. I just, the biggest thing that I like is not necessarily the day-to-day. I think there's a basic understanding when you wake up and feel like shit, okay, that probably shouldn't do the world's hardest thing today. But it's aggregate data over long periods of time. So the trending of either any of your behaviors, sleep, activities, etc., is probably one of the most valuable sets of data that we could have. And even when you're talking about running into a problem, you got to look backwards to be able to go forwards. And if we don't have any set points, if we don't have any relevance to where we were at, what was going on, you're kind of just hoping and praying. And when you go talk to somebody who's an educated person, a physician, a doctor of sorts, and you're trying to convey where you're at and what's going on, you now have something to show them, and you can actually have specific talking points, and then they can see big gaps in that conversation. On a day-to-day basis, it's great to kind of check in, see where you're at, do some of the logging. I really like, the community side of it too. So we have a team and we have a bunch of people on our team, and it's kind of good to keep everybody accountable, if you will, and kind of bust chops. I mean, I think the one time I saw 1% red was Will, right? Pro golfer Will. And it was after, what tournament was that he stayed up watching? It was the Masters or something. And he went balls out watching it and everything. And I woke up the next day, I was like, is Will alive? I don't know if Will's alive. But I checked in on Will, and Will was alive.
It might have been the Open or the Ryder Cup or something. It wasn't in this time zone, so he was, I think he stayed up. He had like a guy's thing. He stayed up partying, and then woke and then stayed up to watch the Open, and it was pretty gnarly.
He was pretty much
1% recovered. What if you're going to do a workout that day? That's probably,
or walk.
So a lot of this too,
Exactly.
it goes into what you eat, what you drink, things like that. Because that's like the starting point for everything, right? I mean, if you're not eating well, none of this will really, it'll help, but it's going to hinder you a little bit. So like alcohol, let's talk about alcohol a little bit because that's a big topic. Everybody enjoys it, but at the same time, it's tough to do it if you're going to work out properly and perform properly. And myself, I'm a big tequila guy nowadays.
Started 3 months ago. Go ahead.
It started about 3 months ago. Is tequila a little healthier than drinking your beers or your red wine? Because I like the red wine. Or am I just telling myself that and I'm drinking more and more tequila?
Well, it depends on kind of what your goal is. Like, so for example,
that's a different question there, bud.
Tequila, obviously.
So for example, Chris cannot drink beers because of a gut issue that he has.
I have gout, so.
Yeah, it will, destroy him. So in that case, and you got other people that can drink beer all day, right? But in the grand scheme of things is there's a casual thing where you're just trying to have something to sip on so you can be part of a social experience. That's great. If your goal is to get inebriated, right? If your goal is to have a feeling on the other side of the coin, some of the harder liquors are better just because of the alcohol concentration and the volume you have to drink. So now instead of me having 7 beers, I can have 2 tequilas and probably feel the same. And instead of drinking this aggregate amount of volume, I just had this little bit. Cleaner, more, the more refined products are going to just, not going to leave you as a hangover so much. But in general, alcohol is a poison for the body. So, to ever say that this version or that version is better, it's which version of poison is better?
Small improvements on my end, right?
Yeah.
We're heading the right way. I'm drinking a cleaner alcohol now.
Yeah, and that's where wearing, some sort of biometric device is helpful because you can see, it's been, I think one of the reasons that we know that, within not drinking within 2 hours of sleep is one of the best things that you can do if you are drinking is because of these devices. We can actually see, you could still be in the green if you have some drinks with dinner, but then you stop drinking 2 to 3 hours before bedtime. You actually get to metabolize the alcohol for bedtime, so it's not affecting your sleep and your recovery as much. So it's just making those choices that's tough.
That's where you lost me, boys, because I actually I actually drink tequila now at night to put me to bed. So
that's not good sleep, though. That's not restful sleep, though. That is falling asleep. That's not recovering through sleep. So quality of sleep is probably one of the most valuable metrics. How many REM cycles you're getting into, what your deep sleep looks like all of those types of things.
And that's what all this plays into what you guys are trying to accomplish with your clientele, right? Because you're going to give them a program that, listen, guys, here's what you're going to eat, within reason. And then, you can have a drink or two, and then you work out the next day, you get a proper sleep, and then all of a sudden now we're working with your swing coach. So it's all going hand in hand here.
Yes, it's a very holistic. So, it's all encompassing, and we look at some of that lifestyle behavior modification and say, look, when you look at somebody drinking, if you have drink water, you're going to have a 4 times better recovery. So I'm not telling you not to drink. I'm telling you if you drink water, in between. That's the biggest thing. And then when, like Chris was saying, where it's like if you curb it a couple hours ahead of time, well, you're back in the game. Okay, these are, small tricks that you can do to make the best. So it's not about being idealistic and perfect. It's about being realistic and optimizing within those confines.
So I'm going to be very honest with you here on what's transpired in the last few years. But I used to drink about 6 to 8 Cokes a day.
Woo!
Okay.
I didn't know. Well, sure, yeah.
So 6 to 8 Cokes a day. But can you just let me tell my story? I know I'm not the perfect fit for health. All right. I'm trying to make gains in life, bro.
I like it.
So anyways, long story short, I weaned off that a little bit. And now for the most part, I am probably 4 to 5 cups a day of black coffee. Okay. Water, a lot of water as of recently. And then I do at lunch, I'll either drink like a sparkling water to get that sensation, or I'll have like a ginger ale.
Okay.
And then at night I have 1 or 2 tequilas around 8:30 when the kids go to sleep. So my point is, I will say that I do feel like I don't have so much of a crash, throughout the day. And I mean, the 4 to 5 cups of black coffee.
Well,
is
I was
going to
say,
thing.
but I mean, Jesus Christ.
So it's more like upper limit on caffeine.
That's natural, bud.
400 milligrams a day. So that's the only one that you would want to watch out for. And then you could get adrenal fatigue and have challenges with long-term energy levels with like high amounts of caffeine. So, and some of that may not be like, how does that, you said you had like gallstones and stuff. Do you find the acid?
No. I got gout, bud.
Gout.
Yeah, it's personal,
Okay.
but
It's personal.
Yeah. But that's the.
we got a lot of fucking issues over here, boys.
I know. I wonder if it's the behaviors that are. It's okay.
Yeah, I mean, who would have thought, right? I mean,
let's just take a look. We talked about the goals earlier, right? You have, let's just say, like, this is a golf show. We're talking about golf, but there's a lifestyle side of the equation for us, for like what we're talking about today. But let's say golf is at the top of the funnel, if you will. That's what a lot of people come to us. They come to us, I want to get better at golf. I want to be able to go to Orange Theory. I want to be able to lose a bunch of weight and
run and play with my kids,
whatever it is. Those are the pain points, or those are the goals, right? People don't come in to me and say, hey, I would really like optimal movement health and good joint quality and architecture. That's not what people come to us for, right? They come to us for whatever the goal is, whatever they want to be better at with life, or they just want to get out of pain. Yeah. So that's how they come through. Now, once they're through, we have to look at everything. We have to look at
impact,
how you move, what's your psychology, what are your behaviors throughout the day, what's your physiology, right? So, Jonathan, like some of the stuff you're talking about, it's like, okay, I want to get better at golf and I don't want to feel like shit anymore. So this is how you're coming into the equation. Now we're looking at what are the biggest boulders in the way of success there, and how do we overcome them? And it seems like if you have gout, if you just Google like oxalates and foods that reduce your pH online, you're going to see some types of alcohol, and you're going to see coffee, and you're going to see stuff like that, right?
Some meats and certain things.
Yeah, I'm a big steak guy. What's up, boys?
Is it a problem or is it a goal? That's the biggest thing. when you're looking
I feel
at
like I feel like we're sitting in an intervention. Bash, is this intervention, bud?
It is,
Well,
dude.
Ryan
This is
told
all.
us there were some things, and we thought we'd come together and help out.
I want to really explore the
This is
gout
what-
thing.
Well, no, for me, what really gets the gout firing on all cylinders is shellfish,
Yeah.
which sucks because I like shrimp, I like your oysters and all that stuff. But I mean, if I could eat red meat, I could eat steak every night, and nothing will happen to me. But the shellfish is what gets me going, and a lot of red wine, which I like that, which is why I'm so happy that my friends have backed me into this tequila train, because that's really taken off. And now I enjoy a bottle. Like the other night, I drank a bottle of red wine by myself. And
That's a problem. So this is an intervention. My man loves breakfast, and he calls me up one day after, and he's all, "I'm going to start fasting, intermittent fasting. I'm not eating breakfast anymore." So he was on this diet kick where he was like waking up, drinking coffee, not eating till 12, and then eating whatever he wanted, and then stopping at 7 or whatever it was, whatever you were doing.
how's that sound, guys?
Mediocre at best.
Yeah.
So the problem is that it's arbitrary. So this is what happens, is that people pick and choose randomly what they want to attach themselves to. And it's usually something that they either saw, they had a friend that was successful, right?
Kovic.
And it has real relevance to like your lifestyle, your needs, like any of those types of things. And we think just like by process of proximity that, oh, well, that worked for you, so I'm going to join the train, right? It's different. And really what we care about is being effective. So I don't really care. I don't really care if you smoke cigars. I don't care if you have all these things, as long as you're being able to live the life that you want to do. We're not here to be Puritan, right? We don't, that's not how we live our lives, but we are optimizers. So, and like Ryan, like he's taken this a little bit more. And he's like, so we would refer to you guys as like performance-driven optimizers, right? So you want the outcome measures and you're looking to make the changes needed to get there. That's great. Now, if you don't have a depth or a breadth of knowledge there, then you're just randomly, and it's like, oh, you're at that chapter in the book, right? And you're like, all right, I don't know, I'll try this. And some of it is trial and error, and that's totally fair. And we have to understand how our bodies respond to certain things. So did intermittent fasting, what did that do for you?
It did. I will say the one thing that it did for me was, I mean, I have 2 children, 5 and 3, and I mean, the goldfish are around, and I put my hand in the bag, grab a handful of those, throw those in, eat some peanut butter cereal. I will say, when I would eat a lunch at noon and then a dinner at 5:30, and then I stopped at 8, and then at 7:30 I'd have an apple or a banana to kind of get me going through the night. A little bit of health there, boys, huh?
Right.
And I will say, during that period, I did not have snacks at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah. So that's seeing so that's
what you're solving for.
That's where it's valuable, though. That's the
Yeah.
psychological component where instead of being a compulsive eater, you had to be aware of what you're consuming. And so, and I find that too. When I'll do 48-hour fasts, sometimes 72-hour fasts, and for me, it's like, let's say I did have a weekend where I was drinking, and I was socializing,
like his 40th birthday that he just had
last weekend,
cigars.
My family was in town, so I don't eat big breakfasts usually, but we had some big breakfasts, and I'm like, oh, I don't feel very good. So let me go into this week fasting, right? So that means not only am I not thinking about having drinks that night, but I have to be careful how much coffee I have because I don't have anything on my stomach also, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not going to see something and then automatically just put it in my mouth. It's all of those things that go into the fasting. So if it's just the discipline, like curbing the compulsive nature side, that has value to it.
Huge.
Right? Even if that's just what it is. It may not be doing a lot for your overall physiology. It may not be, you may have a tendency to want to drink more coffee because you're not putting food in your system, but you have to evaluate all of those things. Sometimes when we eat, we want more caffeine because it slows us down. If you're someone that's trying to curb caffeine and that's one of your number one obstacles, and you're eating later in the day, and so that limits your desire and your need for coffee, well, that could be helpful too, because if one of the major issues is too much coffee, then you have to find ways so your behaviors have to line up with that, right? So that's where it's like, yes, it could be helpful for everyone. No, absolutely not. For you, maybe, and then we would argue like going to a functional medicine doctor or a naturopath and getting some blood work done and looking at your blood work and then putting behaviors in play and then later looking at the blood work again and making sure that your behaviors are improving your overall physiology and balance. That would be the best way to go about these types of interventions like you're talking about, because without that, you just have no idea what it's doing to your body, right? It's like,
and measurable success, right? Is motivating.
Cholesterol too, boys. So.
Yeah, not surprising with the remedy. But that's the thing though, is that if you care, right? And my thing is like, especially with the kids, right? We both have kids like 8 and 5, right? So you run around crazy. My goal is to be able to beat their ass when they're 18, right? Yeah. I got 2 boys. I got to be able. I'm not going to let them take me down, at least at that age. So I have to keep my P's and Q's together between here and there.
Yeah.
And if that's my goal is a decade from now, 15 years from now. Well, I better giddy up today. And that's not like a half-hearted attempt, because when I talk to them and I ask them to do things, I better hold myself to higher standards and toe the line. Otherwise, I'm just going to be barking away and I'm not going to see anything but resentment.
Hey, that's a great, yeah, you're right. And part of that, why I started doing this is because it's true. Like, you want to live to see your kids grow up, right? Like, it's scary. I mean, you're seeing things. Well, but the cigars, that's a touchy subject. But, you do want to see. You got to have a goal in life and shoot it. So
tequila,
more tequila, boys, more laughs. Let's talk about your golf games, though, boys.
Mediocre at best. His is actually pretty good. He actually bought me my first set of golf clubs 3 years ago now.
So you just got started.
A little bit, yeah. So I specialized in putt before that, but that's a different story. Chris had some swing lessons and, kind of played, for, I don't know, how long you been playing golf?
I don't know. Most of my life now, but it wasn't anything spectacular. Formal. Yeah. I mean, I was like a football, basketball, and baseball player, mostly through high school, and then for the latter part of high school, just football. And then in college, I kind of started picking up the clubs again, with my baseball swing. And then it wasn't until actually I was about to get, married, so going on probably 11, 12 years ago, that I had my first lesson. And that's when things really changed for me. That's when I got to finally see myself swing. And my first lesson, I went from, let's call it a glorified slice, but that was literally 90 degrees off to the side. That I was having a hard time with this left to right thing, and my swing, he just basically strengthened my grip, and all of a sudden I was able to hit a draw. So there really wasn't anything wrong with my body necessarily. There really wasn't anything wrong with my swing necessarily. It was literally just my grip. So imagine everything in life, you just had somebody that could identify that one thing that you're missing that makes the biggest difference in the world. I mean, that's what I learned that day, was all I was missing was the appropriate grip. And then that took me basically from probably a 25 handicap, and then, working with that new swing over the course of the next year, I went down to a 12. And the only thing that really changed, nothing had changed other about my intention or anything. It was literally just how I gripped the club. And that's, I think, just a little bit of a metaphor for, movement. It's a metaphor for, Jonathan, what you're talking about with little changes you're trying to make. Like, if there's that one thing you're working on every single day, whether it's your golf swing, whether it's your fitness, whether it's your relationship with your wife or your kids or whatever it is,
mental well-being,
you have to identify it. But if you're not searching for it, it's really hard to identify.
Well, you guys out there in San Diego, I mean, with respect to golf, I mean, my God, the list goes on. You got Torrey Pines, you got Aviara, you got Santa Luz Club, La Jolla Country Club. I mean, Rancho Santa Fe Country. Like, it just goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're blessed out here. And also the seasons,
right? The weather doesn't hurt.
It's like we're upset because we had some rain. But
what is because people will probably be asking us about this. What is a program? Number one, can this program, I live in Pittsburgh, can this program be done? Am I flying out to you to kind of get how far away I am?
Yeah, there are options for sure, but it's not necessary. Is it better? Yes.
Sure.
I mean, we've
Hands
had
on.
people travel and then spend 2 weeks, and we do kind of like an optimization
Intensive.
transformation thing.
Yeah.
But we also do
Remote.
movement assessments virtually where we can see you move. Now, I'm not going to be able to put my hands on you and do any treatment, but I can teach you how to do the treatment on your own.
Yeah.
As long as I can see your quality of movement, we can figure out what you're missing, and then we can develop a program, from there.
So we kind of have an extension of that. It's called Pain-Free Performance, and it is our kind of online vertical that delivers this, and it delivers it through the what you do, and then it's also the why you do it. So there's an understanding behind those things, because what we've found is that the more understanding you have, the more value you have. The more value you have, the more likely you are to actually do it. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, these are not like the world's most enjoyable, exciting things, right? But if we know that if there's a real value that is attached to this longevity, the being able to play with my kids, the being able to increase my drive and all of the above, well, then if I understand that, now maybe, okay, I'll do my homework. But if it's just us barking at you because you suck and we want to make you better, that doesn't do it.
Or the generic programs that are out there. You go on YouTube and you're like mobility for golf or whatever, but that's not right for you. Back to your question earlier, Ryan, what if you're hypermobile?
Yep.
Well, you probably don't need that mobility stuff. You think you do because you've been like harped on by marketing and all these influencers and stuff. Oh, you need to do these stretches, you need to do this. But actually what you need is core stability, and you need to be able to control your joints better. Well, how do you know that unless a professional assesses you? You probably are not going to, and therefore you can cause more harm than good. And that's what we run into a lot, is people that come to us from other professionals that we're giving them the wrong things based off of their needs, unfortunately.
And we just had this collegiate level pitcher that came in, and he was all excited because he does an hour and a half of mobility a day, and he owns it, and he follows, and he does all this stuff, and he's got it down. Took 5 minutes, and I'm like, you don't need to do any mobility. You need all stability exercises. And his heart was crushed. Right, his soul was crushed because he had worked so hard. Right, he had mastered it. Right, he had understood every aspect of it. The problem was that he didn't have anybody to tell him which book to read.
Yeah.
So that's the problem, is we need a quarterback. We need somebody that can come to us, that can hear us, that will listen, that can spend some time, and then has a depth of understanding. And that's our thing, right? Our staff is like very high level. So if we were going to compare us to the military, we would be the Navy SEALs of the military, right? These are high level practitioners that can just right away, as soon as you walk in, can take care of a number of different issues, identify the biggest ones, and then we can deliver you the interventions that you need in a timely, efficient manner. We call a lot of that like microdosing movement, where, look, we just need 2 to 3 minutes, 2 to 3 times a day. That is your beginning. That's literally what we ask of people from a time commitment. Now, it does take a second on the front side to actually do an assessment so that we can talk to you and have these understandings of your world. But then it's plug and play. And then as long as you want it, we're here, right? But we are not here to tell you that this is a good idea or something that you should do. Right? We are not here to convince you that this is an ideology that you should subscribe to. We're here to facilitate that.
Yeah. I mean, this sounds like an app in the making, boys.
It is
an
actually
app in the making.
There you go.
Yep. So we're about halfway through that conversation, but luckily that takes forever. So that's fun.
And that's the thing. Like, I know Ryan was so excited for today because he's really into this. And I mean, I will say, you can tell his quality of life. Like he watches what he eats, right? And he goes to bed at 8:45, and I'm just pouring cubes in my cup, boys. And you can tell he gets up in the morning and he's well rested. And I mean, I take enough trips with the guy to know all this and all that. But you can see like the results are there for him personally, right? And he sticks to it. I mean, he does not waver, and he eats right and all that jazz.
Yeah. So it's a values over rules existence, fundamentally. So like if I come and tell you, you have to be in bed at 8:45 and you can't drink this and you need to do that, that's a rules-based existence. That's what a lot of people think and feel. But if you value this process, right? And tell me if I'm wrong, Ryan, but if you value this, the behaviors are in tow. It's obvious. And so it's an understanding of an ideology that we subscribe to as an individual, and that's choice. And but we're not here to convert people to say that your world's wrong and the world that you want to live in is wrong or anything like that.
No.
We can just say that we prefer this and this is what we subscribe
Well,
to.
and it's about how you want to feel, right? And when you say, I want to feel this way, and then we show you the things that are in the way of you feeling that way, I think that's what a coach does, right? If you have a coach that is like yelling at you all the time, but doesn't actually understand what you want, and what you want is a feeling. Let's be real, right? Whether it's confidence on the golf course or whether it's just not feeling achy joints anymore, there's a feeling associated with that. What's in the way of that? Now it's up to you. You choose, right? This is the stuff in the way. You want to move beyond it or not?
Yeah, no, and it becomes a way of life. It becomes ingrained. It doesn't feel like a chore. Nothing that I do in terms of being in the gym or working out or fitness feels like a chore. I thoroughly enjoy doing it. It's built into my day. If I don't do it that day, I am off 100%. So no, I love what you guys are doing. I think it's going to catch fire if it already hasn't. And hopefully some of our listeners out there will take their workout routine a little more seriously, because I know we have some buddies out there. I won't name names. They're a little out of shape. And hey, bud, you guys like playing golf? Maybe loosen it up a little bit. Try to touch your toes. Get the hip flexors a little more flexed out. It's good stuff. So we are with Kyle, Valery, and Chris Wilke from Stretch Effect over in San Diego. Guys, it has been awesome kind of hearing your story, talking a little bit about the fundamentals, the biomechanics, the whole 9 yards with what y'all are doing. And I promise you, when I am in San Diego, you will see me at your place. Right. That is a guarantee. Right. We're going to transition this to the last segment of our show called the Tap In segment, presented by Bettinardi Golf. Check them out online at bettinardi.com. Phenomenal putters. Jonathan's going to ask you 4 questions that demand your quick-witted response, and he can take it away.
And it's the first time we've ever had 2 people, so you both got to answer each question. So
there you go. Right.
Favorite pre-round stretch?
Ooh, favorite pre-round stretch. For me, it's rotation. I limit my rotation. So I have to do trunk rotation with the club, where I'm essentially like this, and I have to work into this type of activation both ways, for sure, is my favorite pre-round stretch.
Yeah, mine's probably a shoulder adduction with rotation. So I'll reach my left arm. So my lead arm is the main thing for me. When I'm working out a lot, my lats get tight, right? And that holds our arm close to our body. So I have to get my arm across my body, under my chin, and then I'll do some neurological activation here. I'll usually do this with a club or a stick, and then I'll add rotation into it so that I can feel that width. Otherwise, I just feel like a meathead trying to swing a little stick.
Mm-hmm. I know how it feels, guys.
That's a great analogy.
Favorite music while on the course and working out?
For me, I do like a lot of Eminem. So I like a little bit of Rage with my party.
Not ideal for it. You can tell he's a new golfer. I like reggae on the golf course, and then when I'm working out, usually it's some form of EDM.
Yeah.
All right.
Bingo.
That's a good one. Mm-hmm. Favorite golf destination?
I haven't actually been to one yet outside of San Diego, to be honest with you. But out here, I think for where I went to out here, Del Mar Country Club was by far one of my favorite locations.
Yeah, you can't beat where we're at. I have a huge bucket list, but I really like the Scottsdale area.
Love Scottsdale.
Especially like in the fall or spring. Kind of compares to Palm Desert, which is a little closer, but Scottsdale just feels a little bit more removed, so it feels like you're on a trip or something.
All right, guys, last one. What are you chasing?
Oh man, we're chasing a lot.
That's right.
That's we're very hungry. So we are chasing essentially an impact for the greater community to have well-being, right? Holistic well-being fundamentally. And then we're chasing, success for our families and for our generations so that we can leave some impact in this world in a positive place. For us, that's in my world.
Yeah, for sure. And it's there's no point in chasing success if that, you know, giving back to the community doesn't come along with it, right? And so it's success, it's impact, and I think, you know, the whole goal would be that we have an abundance of success, an abundance of impact, so that ultimately we can chase birdies.
There you go.
Tying it in there. I do want to say, Chris, it was interesting. You said meathead swinging a stick. I don't know. It beats a stickhead swinging a meat. I don't know, but that was good though. I like
that sounds like Jonathan at dinner time sometimes.
Yeah. Man, guys, it was awesome. I love your goals. No, thank you for joining us. I love your ambition, and you know, we definitely look forward to hooking up at some point in the future. Maybe get some one-on-one time on FaceTime for the boy Pep.
And that's what I was gonna say. Like, feel free to reach out and let's find some time. And then, like, if you're serious, let's knock down some of these obstacles.
Yeah,
sure.
Sounds great, guys. Thanks again for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
Man. Stretch Effect boys, thank you so much for coming on. We appreciated your time. I could have probably used them a little bit at Old Memorial, but I stretched a little bit. You laughed at my stretches. They weren't very effective. I might have tweaked my right knee, getting the tee out of the ground. But now, you know, I have learned how important it is, and I'm really looking forward to it. You know, they're going to monitor me for a little bit and see where they can help me out. And I gotta personally step up, maybe like 10 less cigars a week, you know, eat right. That's where it all starts. And basically, like they said, it starts, you know, you eat right, you work out right, you golf right. It's that easy, bud.
But your New Year's resolution goals right now are second to none. I'm so proud of you for doing all this shit and being able to be more limber. I mean, imagine if you were 35 or 40 pounds heavier, bud. You're not even seeing your toes. But you're kind of getting to this point now where you're being more organized, you're being a little more patient, you're going to work on your health a little bit, you're at the gym today at 5:30, like you're doing shit like that. And now you're going to implement this stretch regime. I can't wait to see it. I mean, and frankly, you get through
Summer
the ball,
might be happy, bud.
It's going to benefit you in your house.
Everyone.
Walking to the bedroom, wrestling around, you know, doing what you got to do.
Wrestling doesn't hurt anyone, boys.
Hey, bud, he's back. It's like the old days of Mont Valley on the ice, bud.
Bud, buckle the helmets.
But seriously, yeah, it's such a huge part of the golf game. And we easily can overlook it. You see the guys on tour. This is what they do in the offseason. This is what they do full time. When I ran into Jordan Spieth in Scottsdale, the thing that he did the most in the gym was stretching. He's on the roller. He's doing rotating for his hip flexors. Like, that's all they were doing, and that's something that you know, we should probably try to do.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm all for Kyle, Chris. Thank you. I'm all for hearing what you got to say, especially to Pep. But we definitely need to take you up on some advice and see if it can help our golf games out. So people, check them out, especially if you're in California. Stretch Effect over in San Diego. Good people, know what the hell they're talking about, and we sure as hell loved having y'all on the show. And if you ever do venture out here, guys, to West Virginia, southwestern PA, Pittsburgh, we will take you to Nemacolin, which is a 5-star resort south of Pittsburgh. Phenomenal golf, phenomenal accommodations. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. And thank you to Nemacolin for being a partner here on Chasing Birdies. So check them out online at nemacolin.com. And, you know, Pep, that's where you play a lot of your golf. You know their facility there. It's just phenomenal.
Yeah,
I said that a lot.
It's an amazing spot, you know, and you know, we have one man to thank for all of that, Mr. Joe Hardy, who we haven't talked about. He celebrated his 100th birthday on January 7th, and he also passed away on January 7th, and you were fortunate enough to be there, and I know that you were very close with Joe, and I was fortunate enough to meet him and hang out with him twice through you. So, you know, tell us a little bit about what he meant to you as a human being, because I know that you were really upset when that happened.
Yeah, no, I mean, he kind of took me under his wing a little bit there. I got so much good life advice from him, so much good business advice. He had such a huge impact on me. especially from a motivational factor. I mean, I remember leaving him and just feeling so recharged. Like, literally, you can do anything in life. And that was his motto, nothing is impossible. So, you know, I can certainly say that he had a positive, more than positive effect on me. And I will forever be grateful of that relationship we had. And I'll miss him dearly. But I'll still be able to hear things in my head of him talking, things he said to me, some good advice. And he will forever be missed. But he did take that place and turn it into something spectacular. So we here in Southwest PA, North Central West Virginia, wherever, should tip our hats to him for that accomplishment. So thank you, Joe, and, you know, rest in peace. But yeah, it was definitely a somber moment there. So, well, why don't we change the tune a little bit, looking up ahead next week.
Yeah, and while you're
drop.
looking up, bud, I mean, you could be jumping on a Vincent Jet if you want to make your way on over to Nemacolin. They offer direct flights pretty much to wherever you want to go. It's the way to travel, I'll tell you that much. Jump on the bird in the air, bird lands where you need to get, no security, none of that jazz. So Vincent Jets, check them out on Instagram. You know, again, like I said, and as Joe said it, it's the best way to travel.
It really is, especially with golf clubs. Hey guys, thanks for listening to another episode of Chasing Birdies. We'll be back in 2 weeks. We're not going to reveal who we have on, but it's a pretty damn good one. Thanks to the boy over here. So we'll be back on the airwaves there. Airwaves. Whatever this is called, I don't even know. But anything else you got to say, bud?
No, man. Go over to Chasing_Birdies. Like us on Instagram. Give us a double tap. ChasingBirdies.com. Check out what we got. Look up old episodes. We appreciate the love. 2023. Let's be a little more positive and forward thinking this year. That's my goal. Be a little less stressed. Keep the phone in the bag while we play. Let's live. Let's love, guys. Let's love each other. Peace.
Amen to that. Hey guys, thanks y'all for listening. Thank you to Evo and his team over at Simpler Media for putting this thing together. Jacqueline DiPaterio, Rachel London for all y'all social media helps over here at Chasing Birdies. We appreciate y'all. We will check y'all out in 2. Have a good weekend, y'all.